As we gear up for Baptist Women in Ministries Month of Advocacy 2025 this coming March, I wanted to share some inspiring examples of how churches have engaged this important work. I'm thrilled to welcome Brittany Stillwell and Kevin Pranoto here today. Brittany serves as associate pastor with students and families, and Kevin serves as the associate pastor of social work at Second Baptist Church in Little Rock, Arkansas. Brittany and Kevin, thank you both for joining me today. I'm eager for this conversation and to hear how your church participated in BWIM's Month of Advocacy. So, let's start by, can you share with us what motivates you and your congregation to participate in BWIM Month of Advocacy?
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for having us. This month has meant a lot to us over the years, and so we're excited to gear up for another year and to offer any brainstorming ideas that might be helpful.
Thanks.
Yeah, our congregation has been participating in Month of Preaching years ago and have made the shift to Month of Advocacy and have really appreciated the shift of Month of Advocacy. It has kind of allowed us to broaden our efforts, but mostly we participate because it's an issue that's close to our hearts. We've had female deacons since the 1970s and women on our pastoral staff since the 1990s, but we're very aware that our work of affirmation isn't finished. And so this month helps us to celebrate, it helps us to educate, and it helps us to move forward in important ways.
Great.
And I think that our church is very proud of our history as well as our current ministers on staff. They love seeing women up on the pulpit. They love hearing women preach. And so it's very much a part of their identity as a member of Second Baptist. That's what they tell their friends about, how so many women are able to lead and their kids are able to see women up on the pulpit leading in various ways. And so I think that's another reason why this month means so much to us.
I love that hearing they brag to their friends. I love that.
We've had a lot of people joining lately who are trying to find this. We say that we're the last stop out of church. A lot of people who are trying to find a healthy place to be, and they know they're looking for women in leadership, but they don't necessarily always know why or what scripture says in the affirmation of that. So this month allows us to do some educating as well, which is really nice. One of the things that a shift that we've made too is, several years ago, Meredith said something about how we have to empower all women in leadership of the church, not just our pastors, that if we want to have women as senior pastors or associate pastors, we're going to need to start with affirming women who are doing the very real work of ministry at all areas of the church. And so we made that shift several years ago, not just celebrating our female pastors, but celebrating the leadership of women that are happening in our congregation at all the different spaces of how we do ministry together.
I love that because we all know women have been leading in the church for a long time. But naming it and celebrating it is such an important part of this advocacy work. So tell me about some of the actions that your congregation took during Month of Advocacy last year.
Kevin, you want to talk about bingo?
Sure. Yeah. So we've done so many different things for Month of Advocacy, and I think that of course, we've invited women to preach and to get not just our current pastors, women pastors to preach, but outside voices, especially women of color who provide such a different perspective to just the scriptures and experiences with God. And so we love being able to incorporate those voices into our Women's Month of Preaching or Women's Month of Advocacy. And our blog is also a space where we get to elevate the voices of women in the church. And we did a series of posts about women leaders, not just in the church context, but also with our mission partners, our local mission partners.
Yeah.
So many of our local mission partners are led by women. They are the executive directors. They are the ones leading the homeless service agencies or different other organizations that we help support. And to elevate their stories and experiences, we thought was also important.
Kevin, I think last year, every single one of our mission partners was led by a woman. That hasn't always been true, but I think last year, which was just so cool.
Wow. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is.
And so to be able to, I had one of my interns interview all these women, and even she was just super moved by their stories.
Oh,
We highlighted the challenges that they faced, as well as just what motivates them to serve the community at large. And that was really touching. Um, and we make sure that we invite all kinds of leaders from our church to participate in this blog as well. So not only our deacons, but people who serve on committees,
mhm.
people who serve on our hospitality crew, or trying to just be inclusive in all kinds of leadership, because we know that women are leading in various forms and not everyone has the title, right?
Right.
Um, and then we posted these blogs on social media, as well as encouraging people to participate on social media to share who has made a difference, which woman has made a difference in our congregation's faith journey, who are the faith leaders in their lives. And so being able to see all the shout outs from within the church, as well as family members that have been influential in their lives, maybe mentors, people from their schools, was just really great to see. And we wish that more men would have joined in the conversation.
Okay, okay.
But seeing women uplifting women was also beautiful. But yeah, we definitely want to see more men join in and elevate
Yes,
the women who've been influential in their lives.
absolutely.
What else, Brittany, have we done?
Well, we also did bingo, which is absolutely silly, but was really
You've got to
fun.
tell, silliness is advocacy. You can be
That's
silly with
right.
advocacy. It works.
We had a really cool bingo card we made with several different ways that you could advocate or get involved. Write a card to a mentor that's made a difference to you, read an article, read some of the stats from BWIM's State of the Women
Yes.
address, hear a woman preacher, and we linked to a couple options and show up on the Sunday that our woman preach. In fact, I think you could just participate in the life of the church and hit bingo eventually in the month.
Excellent.
Um, but the free space was choose your own way to affirm women in ministry. And if you got bingo, you got to have to get this really cool little pin that says
I
Our Women
love it.
Lead. So
I love
yeah,
it.
I've made that available if anybody else wants to borrow some ideas, but it was a fun way to engage and participate. And our church got into it, and that was just a fun, silly way, but it also kind of highlighted ways that sometimes I think we forget all the different options we have for affirmation. And so it was a good way to have those cataloged as well, even if you didn't actively cross off your bingo card.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. I love that. And
Another
I love fun and games. So I'm here for a bingo card.
Another thing we've done over the last several years, and that I think we'll do again this year, is we asked, we actually compiled the list of women who lead in all different areas of the church: Sunday school teachers, committee members, mission partners, and we asked them to give us a short um, answer to the prompt, why I said yes. Why did they say yes to leadership at Second Baptist? And then our admin secretary is a beautiful graphic designer, and she created these really cool story cards that went on our social media.
Oh,
And
wow.
we just kept rolling with, I mean, I think the first year we did it, I think there was like 3 a day of all the women throughout the month of why they said yes to serving at Second. Kevin turned it into the coolest banner that we display proudly at all kinds of things, that has the quotes from all the women of why they said yes. And then every year since, we've been trying to we go back to committees. Who hasn't answered? Who has joined us? who is joined in leadership that needs to answer the same question. So we have this really cool, like, I think we keep them in a book too, catalog of the women who serve and why they agreed to serve at Second. And that's one of my favorite things that we've done.
That's a beautiful, and you're keeping history
Yeah.
recorded, which is, in 100 years, somebody will sit down and read that book and just be amazed at all the ways women have led. Like
Let's
that's so.
hope that in 100 years they say, why were we celebrating
Why did
women
we
so
have to
much?
do this? Let's hope. Let us hope.
That's what we work for.
So, give us some practical information. How did your church prepare leading up to MMA? What were some of the things that helped make it a success?
I'll
Yeah.
be real honest. It started with Kevin and I brainstorming the first few
Okay,
years. We want to do something. How do we do this? I'm grateful for a conversation partner in Kevin, so that as the woman on staff, I'm not doing it alone. That's a huge gift. Um, Something for male ministers to note. Huge
good.
gift.
Yes, that's important for our male ministers to know. Absolutely.
And then we, after a couple years, decided that this shouldn't be just from us if we're trying to empower all levels of leadership. And so we have done some after church, like brainstorming sessions. Come give us all your ideas and we'll see what we can do to make them happen and who wants to help us work on certain avenues to make it happen. I wish we were a little bit more organized in how to do it, but it's working. Uh, I would love to be able to like hand it off to more lay leadership.
Yeah.
But we are the ones here
Mhm.
day to day. So it works.
Yeah. No, I think absolutely ministers will always have to be involved in the preparations, but I love that you're reaching out to your lay people and getting information about getting their ideas. So absolutely.
I will say too, Nikki, one of the things that the one there's a small dissonance in my soul every month when I ask people to celebrate me as it's not what it is,
Okay.
but it
Yeah.
feels like it a little bit,
Right.
especially at a congregation that's had women in leadership for so long. And we
Mhm.
all know that there's work to do, which is why I keep pushing for it with my congregation who's pushing for it as well. But it does feel a little bit strange every month when I'm like, hey, let's celebrate women in ministry as one.
Mhm.
And so the emphasis of lay leaders has been helpful. Kevin's presence and the rest of our pastoral staff has been helpful. But there's always that small dissonance in my soul that I'm sure others feel
Mhm.
when this month rolls around, especially as the staff person who has to say, oh, hey, March is coming. Want to celebrate. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's such an important word for all of our women who serve on staff. They are looked to as the one to make all this happen. And it would be so very helpful to have some male ministers and maybe some male lay leaders um, picking up some of those responsibilities and helping lead that charge. Absolutely.
I do
Um,
think in my experience, because we've kind of struggled to have men jump in too. Kevin alluded to when we did the shout out women on social media, it was women shouting out other women, which was beautiful, but it was very noticeable the lack of male engagement. And I wonder if a lot of times our men think that this month isn't for them. And
mhm.
I appreciate, I mean, one of our sometimes what we do is we step back so that our women can have a voice. And so I really appreciate that. But I think it's important to note for our men that to not have to carry the weight of this, to have the men celebrating the women is also a huge part of it. And so I just kind of want to encourage the men who are watching this that your participation is not overstepping, but is really needed and can go a really long way.
I'm glad you shared that. So, my position, I've been on at BWIM for less than a year now. And when they hired me, the position was a new position. And so some of the things that they added into that are what I'm supposed to be bringing to the organization. And one of those is I have a charge to develop male allies because we know that without male allies, with with any marginalized group, without the privileged group helping. So if we're talking about, people of color need white people standing up for them, right? This is true. So when we're talking about women in ministry, we need men to be a part of that advocacy work, a part of that important conversation. So absolutely, this year, men's shout out those women who have meant something to you and and ask your ministers how you can participate in making this important month happen. So, why don't you tell me, what kind of impact do you think your efforts had? What was it any good? Do you think that the work that you did made a difference?
Yeah. Um, to touch on even the last question a little bit, I think that for churches to have affirmed women for quite some
Mm,
time now, for decades, we take affirmation for granted, right? We think that this has become the norm. I think Brittany can even attest to like some of the youth feeling like this is normal for Baptist congregations or for congregations at large to have women on pastoral leadership, to have women lead, and for the whole church to affirm women leaders. But that is not the case, right? This is an insulated bubble that we kind of live in. And so to make people realize once again, like, oh yeah, women still don't have these opportunities in many contexts, and how it is still important for us to lift up the experiences of women and become aware of even our growing edges. There are still so many things that our church, um, practices that are not fully inclusive. There are still ways in which we could grow in full affirmation. So I think that is an impact for us to just have more awareness of what even our women ministers experience that are not okay, and how can we change that and make yeah, take action on those things. And yeah, I think that we also, the impact is that women feel really empowered and appreciated in this month.
good.
Women of all strides, to be seen when maybe they're not seen at the workplaces, and
Mhm.
validated in their leadership when their workplace doesn't fully validate or affirm their leadership. I think that is so powerful for them to get that from their faith community. Um, yeah, so many women experience so many microaggressions wherever they are in their place of work, and to be able to come to a Baptist church and be fully seen and even seen in their potential for leadership, right? That is really powerful and moving.
I think I would add to I think it's empowered our like the month happens and it's beautiful, but there's a lot of stuff that happens outside of the month.
Yeah.
And I think that our conversations, our advocacy, especially the emphasis toward advocacy, has allowed our congregation to have some like bigger, more candid conversations about women in
Mhm.
our church. And so I will say, like, some of it has been an uncomfortable result, but a necessary one. We've been able to have hard conversations about how we interact with the women in our congregation and the things that are okay and not okay to say or do with the women in our church. There's a lot of things that we just don't know until we know. And so bringing some of this to light has empowered the women to say, hey, that didn't feel great. Let's let's do better. And
Yeah.
so it's a little uncomfortable, but I think it's led to some really great conversations and equipped us with the tools to handle those conversations as they come up instead of just kind of getting defensive or brushing it back under the rug. The other thing I will add is I mean, our church has been a supporter of BWIM for a really long time, but having a month where we say there's an organization out there fighting for our women, and especially last year when all of the Southern Baptist Convention stuff was going on and BWIM was on the front line and we were able to highlight that over the summer. We've watched the documentary together with an Episcopal church and watched theirs as well, not in Month of Advocacy, but we don't need 1 month to contain it all.
Mhm.
And it's really brought awareness to our congregation and of the importance of what BWIM's doing, so much so that we voted to give a pretty major gift during the fundraising campaign. And so I think part of it is, we start with a month, but then it begins to bleed out of the month. And that's
Mhm.
really huge. And then the last thing I'll add is that a couple weeks ago, I had a young girl ask me a young, like middle school, say, when do I get to preach? And so I think it's that kind of stuff that just like, it wasn't
Yeah.
like, can I, she wasn't asking permission. It was like, I need you to put me on the schedule. And that's just huge.
It is
And that's why
huge.
we do it, is so that they don't
Yeah.
have to undo the baggage the rest of us had as children.
Amen. Amen. All right. So tell me, what was your favorite part of what you do? Do you have a particular thing that's your favorite thing that has come out of it or that y'all participate in?
I thought the bingo just was so much fun. People were excited about it.
Yeah.
People were asking for the bingo card, um, asking for a copy of it to post on their social media so that
Mhm.
their friends could get
Oh,
involved too, even
wow.
people outside of Second Baptist, right?
I love it.
That kind of went viral.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that was really great to see just the excitement that people had for that. There was just so much energy behind that bingo. It was so simple, right?
Yeah.
But so much energy to go behind that
Kevin,
activity.
should we confess that we did bingo because we were running behind and thought, oh no, we don't have anything. This is an easy thing to create. And then it turned out to be this huge awesomeness. So that's another word I have to people who are working on this month. Sometimes the simplest options are your best
Mhm.
ones.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no cost, right? Like very little cost, just
Right.
card stock. That's all we needed.
That's all you needed. I love it. I love it. And I love that you had the little pins to give out. It just feels so very Baptist to me. Um, I just feel like it fits really, really well. Well, thank you, both of you, for taking a few minutes this morning to share with me and with our constituency about the work that you all did, and for sharing your resources. Some of the things that they've done, we will have available for you to see, so you can make your own copies. You can make your own version. Maybe we'll have bingo all over Month of Advocacy this year. So, thank you both, Kevin and Brittany, for being a part of this.
Thank you. Thanks for the good work that BWIM's doing. Without the motive, without the prompt from BWIM, we wouldn't even think to do this. So I'm really appreciative of all that y'all do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki.
Thanks.